This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
You've seen and read my 3 Pillars ebook, and now I'm proud to announce my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and it's now out and ready for reading. This new book of mine is a full-length version of the teachings of the 3 Pillars, and in it I show you how to walk in the integrity of eternal universal laws, in step with the law of attraction to consistently create the life you desire. Now, if you've ever wondered just why you can't consistently manifest all the good, loving, abundant, healthy, and happy things you desire, my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, will reveal the key in how to do just that. Plus, help you build a rock-solid personal foundation that will stand strong for the ages. Get your copy today. My new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship by Carl Gruber. Available now in ebook and paperback on Amazon.com. Celebrating 200 shows today. That's right. This is the 200th episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I am your show host, Carl Gruber, and I am absolutely over the moon excited and grateful to have been able, over these last 7 years, to bring you the world's top experts, masters, ascended masters, teachers, and channels of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening. This is World Awakening, so welcome. Now, to celebrate show number 200, I am super excited to welcome to the show Tamara Caulder Richardson. Tamara is an international evidential medium known as the Southern Belle Medium, a Christ channeler and divine angelic Syrian messenger, UFO encrypted experiencer, ultra-dimensional communicator, author, and speaker, and get this, 6-time near-death and spiritual transformative experiencer. Can't wait to hear about that. And she is the host of the popular YouTube show Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience, and Other Phenomena. Plus, so many other experiences and abilities that are way too extensive to list here, so we're going to talk about that. So, gosh, Tamara, welcome to World Awakenings, episode number 200.
First of all, yay! Well done. I know how difficult it is to really dedicate to continue to give good content. So well done. And thank you so much for asking me to be your special guest today. I'm very honored to be here and can't wait to, just really have a fun, deep dive conversation.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you remember, but 3 or 4 years ago, I was co-hosting another show with my friend from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Called Your Spiritual Shift, and we had you on there. But here we are several years later, and gosh, honestly, I'm not even sure where the heck to start with you. And we're going to talk about a lot of things, but you have got to tell us about having 6 near-death experiences during your lifetime. So is that okay, a good place for you to start with it?
Sure. I mean, that really, I guess, is the beginning of my spiritual journey. And that a lot of that happened in childhood, and some as an adult, but I would be considered one of those childhood near-death experiencers. And I do want to point out that many childhood near-death experiencers, as discussed in PMH Atwater's book, Forever Young, it occurs not because the child is weak. It usually occurs because the parents are neglectful or abusive, could be both. And that in that case was mine. It's pretty much so standard across with most childhood N.D.Es, but I had a prenatal, and that actually came up in regression. I've had over 400 hours of past life, and I started with this life, and then it just took off from there into other planets. That's another topic. But my that came through about I was a spirit. I wasn't able to come through. I saw the blood, I saw the thing, and I just felt love and compassion. And so that I didn't know was a thing till I read about it. And then, but as far as the one I can really recall, I had three in a row, 3, 4, and 5. And 3 was when I was playing in an antebellum house. It was I was born in Hickory, North Carolina. Now I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but which is one of the biggest cities in North and South Carolina. But anyway, I lived in Hickory, a couple hours away, and I was playing with my cousin, and we were playing hide and seek, and I ran up the stairs, and I'm jumping about, and underneath the dresser was a nail, like hammered in. I don't know why, but it was hammered underneath. I don't know why, because it wasn't a bad house, or I mean, it wasn't anything. I mean, it was the how do I say it? The lady of the house, which was my uncle's mother-in-law, she was affluent. I don't know what a nail was doing there, but I jumped and it went through and pierced my skull. And I thought it was water, but it was blood, and it was happened so fast. And so I fell over and lost consciousness. And then immediately I was above my body. And then I'm just observing. I'm just in an observing state. And then I hear the confusion, commotion, and they call for the adults. And then the lady at the house, the older lady, comes upstairs, and they call for my mom. And then in the meantime, I'm seeing this angel. It was an angel. It was 10 feet tall. It was glowy and orange wings, and it was had their hands over my head. So now I think they were trying to heal my head, because it's the only thing I could think. So they went right attending my head. And then I went back in the body for a bit, but it was too painful. So I popped back out, and I began to see and hear and experience with greater senses than we have here, not only in that room, but and not only in other dimensions, but every room in the house at the same time, and outside, because I was like, oh, let's try this outside. And so I would be outside, and then I would go back, and it was very quick. It was by thought and consciousness. And so my grandmother they called her, my granddaddy, they came, took me to the hospital. I had a contusion. So I had a hole in my head for 2 years that I could not, I mean, they have to let it grow back. So they checked me, make sure it didn't get worse. I was going to be okay. And so my grandmother, I remember, prayed for me the whole night. Spent was with me. I was in her lap the whole night. She was just worried very much so about me. And at that point on, I began seeing spirit people. It wasn't like I tried to do that. But because we are spirit, I don't understand the separation. We have these bodies right now, which I'm glad for, but we are spirit. So I began seeing them everywhere, and they were just people. And that was a bit confusing. And then when I was 4, my mom, she was interested in this DJ. It's always the DJs, and Rockin' Ray. And she was, from Hickory, very pretty, long blonde hair. And she was interested in this guy and wanted me to meet him. And she had been dating him. And she, at this point, I guess was, in her mid-20s, and she wanted me to meet him. And she didn't want to be at home at that age. She's like 24. And so we go on this. It was a bad day. It had been snowing. It was icy. It was really not a day you should be out. So most people were not out. So she's hard-headed. She still is. And so she said, we're going to go. My grandmother's like, please don't go out, because she had a lot of intuitive ability. She's like, please don't go out. So we did. And we went, he took us out, and we went, because he was very groovy. He was very groovy back in the day, and dressed really cool, where the other guys were kind of nerds. So she just had to have this man. So we went out to the Pizza Hut, and we ate there, and then we went to Baskin Robbins. I mean, there wasn't a lot going on in Hickory. And then we had ice cream. And then we went to his radio station, Channel 1. And he said he had to pick up some papers. So he let me pick out all these LPs. and which I picked out a lot of Motown, the Monkees, and also that sister nun that sang the song "The Lord's Prayer."
Yeah, I remember.
You remember that way back? Well, I used to play that over and over. It just kept me through the day. Like I had no idea. But anyway, and they were busy talking. So they come out a little over an hour. They're arguing. We get in the car and they're arguing because he doesn't want to get married yet. He wants to make more money. She wants to get married right now. She wants to get away from her parents. So we leave. Nobody's out, but it's icy roads. He slams on the brakes. He did that. And they twirled around. We went to a tree. Immediately, I went through the windshield and it was quick. And all of a sudden, there was nothingness. It was all black. It was the quietest quiet. There was no senses or anything. It was just quiet. But what confused me the most is I couldn't find my feet or my hands. You know how you look down, like where are they? Where are they? I'm still here. I'm thinking exactly. I had the same consciousness, just like I had the body, but no hands or feet. Then I saw a little light at the end of the tunnel. It was like a tunnel. Well, okay, not everybody goes to the tunnel. They make jokes about it, but only like 20%. But it felt like a tunnel. In reality, it wasn't a tunnel. It could have been a portal, could have been some kind of portal. But I saw a light coming toward the end, and it got closer, and it was Jesus. And I knew him from my grandmother, said he's our friend, talked to him. But you got to figure I'm 4 years old. It's not like I'm very religious. I mean, I knew about him, but, I was a little kid. But he came toward me, and there were people behind him that I felt were my family, although I couldn't prove it, but I just knew they were. And he said that I had to go back. And I said, I can't. After I saw him, he said, you can and you will. And as soon as he said that, I was back, but I wasn't in my body. I was kind of above my body. My mom, we're in the car. We're crashed into the tree. It's wedged into the driver's side, the tire. And so I'm seeing these kind of good old boy rednecks in a Wagoneer trying to pull the tire away from the tree and pull it out and to help out because nobody's really out there. And so my mom's holding me and I'm looking, and where the park in front where we hid is a small park. It should have been iced over. I was seeing a spring day, and I was seeing Native American Indians. I was seeing a man and a woman with a baby wrapped up like a baboose, making over a fire, like a fish dinner. And then I saw a hot air balloon, and then I saw like a Gibson girl, with the high waisted and the long skirt. And then she was with a guy who had like one of those camping corn cob hats. I don't know what you call them. There's a particular hat you call it, and they're walking along. And I don't know if I was seeing into dimensions that was happening at the same time, or I'm looking into past impressions that have happened. So I honestly can't answer that. It's, you figure it's one or the other. And then I looked behind, and there was a firehouse, which it was closed because of the weather. And I looked and I saw there were about 300 spirit people everywhere because they just showed up. And in the firehouse, there was firemen there that were dressed in old timey fire outfits because I didn't recall them as being what I would normally see. And then there were people in different time period outfits, like the 20s, the 30s, the 50s, this kind of thing. And a lady that looked like the late 30s, early 40s, popped her head in the car. No one could see her but me, and said, "Hi, I'm Judith Hefner. Your grandmother knows my mom and used to shop at her jewelry store."
Oh,
I mean, something you really don't think in a near-death experience. And so I'm seeing all this, and I'm hovering around my body because I'm spirit, right? So I came back, but I didn't come back in my body. A lot of people do that, like in hospitals. They'll come back, but they won't anchor in because they're like, well, that's no good. I'll just kind of hover around, kind of check things out because it's not painful. So then in the back seat, I saw three people. One introduced himself as Catherine, around 10 years old. I'm like, I don't know her. And so it was many, many years later, like really maybe 20 years ago, that I found out that my grandmother had a sister I never knew about her, named Catherine, who died of TB at 10 years old. So I thought that was kind of cool. Not cool that she died, but cool that she was a real person. And so they came in such love and caring, and they were very kind and loving. So what happened there, I finally, to the right, the most important thing, to the right, I had that same angel that was over my head, was very big, 10, 12 feet, fiery orangey yellow, very powerful and peaceful, and then to the right, and then kind of constant. It's like a motion, continual. It was a fluid motion that was going on there, like a movie almost. Like she wasn't just still, you know. And then behind it was, I called it a God portal. The closest thing I've seen is David Ditchfield, the artist who wrote also the book Shine On. He did a God. I said, that's what I saw. It was like fire. It wasn't scary at all. It was just fiery, and it was just like a funnel, and it was like a God created portal. And then and then she said, well, I said she, I don't know really what, but I don't know, Uriel. Well, I didn't know that was an archangel too many years later. I didn't know. So we went back up to the station. They checked me out. At that point, we left to go to stay with him at his crappy trailer, and she basically ran away from home. So my grandparents have no idea where I am. I did not get medical treatment. As an adult, 2 surgeries later, they had to pull tons of cartilage out of my nose. And I think about how wonderful God is, because that's 2 impacts. It's one to the head and to the brain, totally healed, right? My face looks fine. It shouldn't look fine. I mean, praise God, you know? So, I mean, I don't want to look that over. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And then, so what happened is she ended up being with him. There's a whole lot of cool stuff that's metaphysical, that's supernatural that happened in between them. But I had one at 5 years old that was pretty substantial, and that's where I spent 3 days with Jesus.
Oh,
and,
I want to hear about.
That's the good one. That's the good one. I mean, that's the one. And people are listening. When you have a near-death experience, which if you live long enough, most people are. Why? Most people just aren't here and then they're gone. They're going to have little hiccups. So they're going to have close to the edge, come back. So it's kind of a common thing. And I think it prepares you. For me, why I think I had so many, you could say I'm hard-headed, but it put me in touch with the divine. And each time I came back enhanced supernaturally to be able to be of assistance and to be able to freaking cope in this world. I mean, it's not always that easy. And so, so when I was 5, at this point, so my grandparents ended up finding out, through me, actually. I'm laying in this trailer and the sexual abuse started. I'm 4. And it was more pervy stuff. Like, look at this magazine. It was just creepy stuff. It's what perverts do. And so I'm a kid. And so I'm laying, I know, what is this? And so I'm laying in this tiny bedroom going, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Wow.
So I literally got the knowledge to pick up the phone. I'd never used a phone. Picked up the phone, dialed the exact phone number of my grandmother, which I didn't know because I'm 4 years old. Told them 20-something minutes away, street by street, how to get there. Wow. Which it was totally given to me. So she shows up, I'm there. They were shocked. Even my relatives, how did that happen? How did you know to do that? It was supernatural. I was just given that. And I came in with a lot of abilities, but then I've just stayed connected to source. So anyway, she ended up, long story short, the next year, she married him. It was like kind of an elope situation. And then he wanted to adopt me, didn't really ask, wanted to adopt me. And so he gets a job in Raleigh at a big radio station, and WKIX. I don't know if you remember back Wolfman Jack and all those people, they were there. And there were others. And we used to be surrounded by celebrities that come through, or we go backstage because he, was involved with the radio business. And then, so we moved to Raleigh. Now I'm 3.5 hours from my grandparents, my guardians, the ones that looked over me. So my mom started a temp job with Kelly Girls. I don't even remember Kelly Girls. We're going way back. And so she would leave me alone with him. And that's when the trauma started. I mean, it was just awful. I would hide under the bed, be pulled out, try to hide in the closet. I mean, it was awful. And really a lot of adults, they don't want to deal with this. And how do you tell someone, and what do you do? So I had a conversation with God. I'm done with this. I don't know what this is, but I'm done with it. I'm ready to get out of here. And so God listens when you say that. So you got to be really careful. And what happened next is I got strep throat. I got like a flu, strep throat. It went into pneumonia. I had a fever of 103.9 and climbing. It got much higher. And they had hospitals or doctor offices. So mom called the hospital, said, put me in a tub of ice. She did that. Of course, when you're freezing, you don't want to be put in a tub of ice. That was awful.
Yeah.
And so we put in the tub of ice. She cleans me out. She tries to feed me, which I remember it was like a chocolate milkshake, which I'm lactose intolerant, and then tomato soup and cheese toast, which my lungs were shutting down. Didn't really want to eat, so she didn't know. So she put me in. She rinsed me off, dried me off, put me in the bed. It wasn't even like it wasn't even an hour and a half later. I was drenched. So she kept trying to beg her husband at the time, the guy she married, who was very insensitive and a narcissist personality, to take me. No, we don't need to, blah, blah, blah. So finally she said, we're going. So during that time, this is going back, this was the exact night, exact day that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And so they had martial law everywhere, guards. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, well, I remember it happened, but I didn't live in the South then, so.
Well, it was not pleasant living in the South. A lot of riots. Yeah. So they had military guard. They had a national guard, and they literally, you had curfew. You could not go out past 10. So here I am dying. So he has a media car. So that would help, right, with the media car. So because it has the letters on the side. So we go to the first barricade, and they said, what are you doing out? You're not supposed to. And he said, my daughter, even though I wasn't his daughter at the time, I guess it was too confusing to say it all, but we need to go ahead and take her to the hospital. So they're like, we're going to call ahead. So every stop of barricades of soldiers, they just waved us through after that. And then we went to Rex Hospital, which I remember because I like dinosaurs. So, T-Rex, I remember that was the name, Rex Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a team waiting for me. They came out. It was about 12 of them. But then when we went into the room, there were about 8. And there were 2 of them that were male doctors. And there was some assistant, intern, whatever, a man, but the rest were women nurses. And they started they did all these things, but they started pumping like this goop out of my lungs that looked like an accordion thing. And then I got bored and I started zooming around the hospital thinking, this is great. I felt so free in a spirit. I felt so liberated. And I could think the same as now. It was so freeing. And I thought I must be an angel. So I went on to like help people in rooms and kind of minister to them.
Wow.
And one little girl saw me at a stack machine. She could see me as spirit. So when you see people as spirit, that doesn't mean they're dead. I have had a lot of people, like coma people, come to me too, because they're not dead, but again, our consciousness doesn't die. So I'm having a ball, go back, I check the room, I'm kind of grossed out. Then I finally come back again. This goes on 2.5 hours, and I kept flatlining. I came in 15 minutes dead on arrival. Then my lungs were flattened, my lungs were collapsing. And so then after 2.5 hours of working on me, I saw them crying. And I thought, well, why is everybody crying? Especially the nurses. And the doctor said, I have a little girl her age. And they covered me with a sheet, which is really kind of final. And then so I kind of sat somewhere in a hall. I just kind of sat there, but then someone noticed some kind of life a little bit. It was just a little bit of life in the lungs. So they put me in a breathing tent and they put me in induced coma 3 days. For me, as this is going on, I don't know that part so much as it's just waking up in it. But I saw, we were raised Protestant, Presbyterian, but I saw 2 Catholic spirit, a nun and a priest, and they were praying over me. And they said, blessed are the innocent. And I thought, who are they talking about? They're talking about me. And then I looked down and it's right now, 322, that's my birthday. So this is the Jesus part, my favorite part. Every time I see my birthday number, I'm like, it's just a celebration of me. And I can't celebrate it without thanking Jesus, because he has resurrected me completely whole. I mean, it's amazing. And so I looked down and he's holding my hand, and he was so beautiful. He had all this light source coming out and so much intense love unconditionally. And so as I, held his hand, I said, you're that guy I talked to, right? my grandmother told me to talk to you. He goes, I am. And he was smiling. He had a great sense of humor. He goes, I am. And then he said, I have something to give you. And where we are, it's like this beautiful paradise. The grass is gorgeous. It's like the most beautiful meadow and outdoors. It's just gorgeous. The colors are beautiful. They're bright. It's a beautiful day. And I said, what a toy, because after all, I'm 5.
Right.
And he said no, and he laughed, and he took something off his belt. It was like some threads off of his rope belt, and he gave me like a little friendship bracelet on my left wrist, and he said, I wrap you in my love, protection, and wisdom. Much is given, much you'll give. Through the big things, the small things would be done, and then through the small things, through the large things, the small things would be done, and through the small things, the bigger things would be done. Anyway, he was, and then he said that, and he said, but you got to go back. You have to go back. You can't stay here. And I saw these children on like seesaws. What are those roundabouts? They would push it and get on, and they were on there playing. And I said, well, they're here, so I can stay here. And he's like, no, you can't stay here. And I said, why? And he said, because your mother needs you. And I said, no, she'll be fine. And I did say that. I said, she's fine. And he goes, no, she won't be fine. You have more love in you than she has for herself, and you need to go back. And I said, well, I don't know anything about that. And she goes, there's not much to know about love. It's something I know a little bit about, which honestly is a joke. That was pretty funny. And I said, he said, there's no right way and wrong way to show someone you love them. And he said, you'll figure it out. And he says, and I kept begging. It was really ridiculous. No, please. At this point, I'm like feeling the love. I'm feeling this is home. I want to stay. I'm like begging in a really big way. I'm like really creating, saying, no, I want to stay. I want to stay. Please, please. No, I don't want to go back there. It's awful back there. It's terrible. I don't want to go back there. And so he said, okay, so let's just walk for a while. So as we began to walk, you could see, by the way, he's got really good feet. Most men, their feet don't look that great. He looked like he went to have a pedicure, like everything looked lined up and perfect. Like his feet were so pretty. And so he's walking, and the grass is coming over his feet. And as he walked, they're following, everything's following him, the grass, the flowers, the clouds. That was interesting, the clouds. And then we go to this very big tree, and there's a big rock in front. Now, I can't sit on the rock because I'm too short to get up there, but I kind of lean against it. He's sitting on the rock, and he said, you can ask me questions. He said, and I looked at the tree, and the tree looked like cherry blossoms, but they had little red grapes coming from them. And it was a flower tree, but with red grapes. And it was very big, kind of spread out, kind of like one of those African trees, but with flowers. It kind of just spread out. And he said, we don't eat from this tree. And I'm thinking, I'm not thinking about eating from the tree, but okay. And he goes, this is a very wise tree. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, I'm not really interested in the tree. And I said, okay. And so he asked me things, and I'm 5, so I don't know what to ask. I don't even really get him in heaven. I don't really understand. I mean, I'm just excited to be with him. Yeah. And I asked silly things like, how is electricity made? And it was just like, boom, I knew in my head, like instantly it was like downloaded, bam. And I was like, okay, well, I'm bored with that. And then he said, and I said, are dinosaurs real? And, he can only talk to me in the level I would understand. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, they were here once, but you don't need to worry about them. And he said they were an experiment that didn't go very well. He said, but they're no longer here. And I was like, okay. And then he started talking because he figured it wasn't going anywhere. And he said, I want to tell you about heaven, how we create things. He said, if we think it happens immediately. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, if you want to go skiing, you just think about you want to do it in the place, and you're there doing it. Mm-hmm. And I said, and he said, but where you're from on Earth, when you think it takes a long time. So you must be very careful in the words that you speak, and that you only speak positive things. You speak life. You speak, because if you say things that are bad or negative, that you don't want those happening. And I was like, oh no, and he goes, yeah. So you want to be real clear about your thoughts. And then when you speak it, it actually comes into creation, that he didn't use the word manifest, but it's manifested. And I said, okay. I said, well, I want to know how this thing in heaven works. Can I try it? And he said, sure. So I visualized us being on a little river in a boat. So we were in a river in a boat. He was like kind of on the end of it, and I was kind of sitting in the middle and kind of watching him. And then it was like a little boat. And then he said, it was just beautiful. I mean, everything, like the trees, like whipping willows, were coming down on the river. And then these 3 fish swam up to him. He picked one up and said hello to it and put it back down. He goes, that's how we fish here. And I was like, wow, you're like friends with all the animals. So then we go back, and he said that I have to go back. And and he was serious. And I was like, I absolutely did not want to go back. Oh, we hung out for a while though.
Yeah.
So I never told anyone this. So we went to this little brook area where there's a really nice tree where the roots of the tree kind of go down into, it's like a stream. And it seems insignificant. So I just never said anything to anyone. So you're the first, your 200 show. And I swam, and he had 1 foot in the water and one up, like sitting Indian style. And I would just tell him things like kid stuff, like, and we would talk, and I would swim in this water, but it wasn't water because you could breathe in it. So I don't know. It's just kind of strange. It was like water, but you could breathe in it, but everything was great. It was it felt like water, but it wasn't, I guess. I don't really understand what it was, but it felt like it. And we just sat there and we talked a lot. And then he finally said, you have to go back. And I told him I did not want to go back. And he said, well, I'll send you one person. And I actually didn't remember that till later. I'll send you one person to make this world okay. And honestly, I believe everybody needs at least someone they can trust, in this world. And so it was later, it was at 19, he sent me my husband, Clay, because I think so I wouldn't be so damaged later on. And he's so kind and loving and giving and kind-hearted. And he showed me love that, and it also gave me a good example of a positive man, not a bad man. And so, but I didn't know that at the time. So he said that I had to go back, and then we talked about my mission. And he said, you need to go back and tell people that I'm real. And you need to tell them that I am who I say that I am, and that I love everybody. And there's nothing they need to do except know that they're loved. And you need to tell them that heaven is real and my Father's real. And you need to be example of that love. And you need to express that in the world. He said, but you get to do and choose it your own way. But I want you to do that. And I said, I don't know. You're telling me, I just don't think I can do all that. and I was like, you want me to go? I said, and represent you? I don't think I can do that. So he said, there's other people doing it too. And that made me feel a lot better. I said, really? He goes, no, you're not the only one. You're not. You're going to meet them at some point. But honestly, Carl, I didn't meet them till later in life. Mm-hmm. The people like you that carry the love of God and Christ in them. And because now he'll go, there they are. But they have a similar mission, and it's a simple one, but it's kind of difficult in this world. But so after that, I went back, and there was still, abuse that went on till about 12. But I stayed. But the thing is that I've always been talking to him since then. Mm-hmm. So when people say channel and they go into this thing, I don't need to do that. I just hear him all the time. Now, everybody can, but you may have to start with first realizing you just don't have to talk to him. He can talk back. You may do it through messages, through a dream, through a song. You can even automatic write. If he doesn't want to tell you something, he won't tell you. I mean, you can ask it. Right. He won't tell you. But if you ask, sometimes he'll tell you things. Sometimes you have to get a delayed reaction. And then, I tend to get a lot in the shower, maybe because it's quiet, maybe because it's the water coming down. It's a purification process. But then I had, in 10, I had a drowning on a family vacation at a hotel. And I was, there were some boys playing volleyball, and I got hung up under their feet and then swallowed water, and the water started opening up in like this beautiful light, bright light, and a massive chorus of angels And I thought, oh no, not again. And then no. And then the lifeguard was getting the water out of my mouth and all that. And my mom shows up and said, "What'd you do now?" So it wasn't really safe to tell anybody about these things till later. And then I was 38. I had menstrual migraines. I had a general doctor's like, "Well, take these for your menstrual migraines." Okay, fine. Okay, hormones. Okay. We didn't have Google back then, so you couldn't really look up. So if you trusted everybody back then, you trusted
Right.
doctors, trusted everybody, the government, anybody said anything that's authority, you just trusted it. And I was like, okay. And so I took it for about a week, on and off. I was like, I don't like this. I feel like I'm not able to wake up. So one day I took it, and he said it would level out so I wouldn't have headaches. It level my hormones out. That's all I was told. So I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. Now, I don't know why. I couldn't wake up my husband because I couldn't move. But I kind of set up like Frankenstein, like from the dead. I don't even know how I did that. I was like, I knew it was important. Like bells and whistles went off. And I went into the living room and I turned on the TV because I thought, calm down. If you can just turn on the TV and keep your consciousness on whatever's being said. I don't care if it's a toilet paper commercial. I don't care. Just follow what they're saying. Then, you're fine. You only took one little pill. I mean, this is ridiculous. So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to do that. And then I'm starting to hear white noise, like that white noise. Yeah, no, it's not good. I'm going, this isn't good. So then I go into this kind of fear, which I know what follows next is no fear. So I began to forget my name. I forgot I was male or female. And then I started seeing in my living room, all the furniture break down into white lines.
Mm.
And then I was in the galaxy. And I was out there just really looking around and also sitting on the sofa. So I was by location. So I took my one little finger and I poked myself back in my body. And it took, I don't know how long, till I stayed there. And I kind of stayed up through the night trying to gain consciousness. Of course, I looked into what I'm taking. He was putting me on some kind of psychotropic thing, which luckily I didn't have much. And I was so upset about it. I did like a freaking like sweat lodge cleanse. I was like, how dare you? You're getting this crap out of my body. And so, I was, angry because now we can find out things. We can, do our own research. So, those are my near-death experiences. I feel like I've learned that life is not what we think it is. I think the white lines are saying that we're holding things together in a construct by our consciousness. So if that's the case, that if we put our prayers and our intentions in a world of love and harmony, as hippie sounding as it sounds, it's what we need. And not focus on the negative, not focus on the fear, not be drawn into that narrative. But what we can say as victors in God and Christ, we can say, I reject that. I don't receive that.
Yeah.
I even plead the blood of Jesus over things. I'm like, nope, not my narrative, not doing it.
Well, this is just phenomenal. Let me just jump in here and remind our viewers and listeners we're talking to the amazing Tamara Caulder Richardson. I mean, talking about 6 near-death experiences. This is show number 200. And Tamara, I'm only going to have you back on the show if you promise no more near NDEs. All right, you've had enough for now. All right.
I'm done. Not till I'm hanging out with Jesus. I think I'm done. I told him, I said, I think I've learned, I think I've got it now. I'm good. I'll just wait till we get to hang out permanently.
Well, you, as I mentioned in the intro, you've had so many incredible experiences. Let's check in on some more here. Now, what I read, and you've told me, is that you have been abducted by extraterrestrials. What, where,
Mm-hmm.
why?
Okay, so now you know a little bit of my story. All right, so remember when I went through the tree, my nose was all messed up, lots of cartilage, and they took me to this crappy trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so during this time, I was kind of held against my will, and I was being molested, and I was taken away from the love of my grandparents, right? So I was pretty powerful. So I was sending out, a lot of it had to do with me. So I'm sending out this beacon, apparently, bing, 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 to anyone that won't answer, get me out of here. So at the time, I'm in Lenore, North Carolina. We are not far from Asheville, those mountains, Asheville, North Carolina. Okay. And so, only till recently, and I think with everyone's spiritual growth, there is like an onion, a layer of an onion where it unpeels.
Yeah.
And so I knew I've seen that room. I've seen certain flashes of what's in there, but it's too terrifying to look at. And finally, as a grown adult, I went, okay, that's silly. I'm going to look at this because it's my life, and I am. And so I've sat there in meditation. This is like the past 2 years. I've really embraced this because I thought I'm gonna try to be a fearless person. I'm not careless about it, but I try to be, face things on. And so I looked, and what it was, I thought, is it a demon in the room? You know what I mean? Because it looked pretty scary, like a monster.
Mhm.
But which I used to see that too growing up, which I'd see angels and demons. I would see lost souls. I was like, please, I can't help you. Find somebody else. But this wasn't. This was a mantis. This was a large grasshopper being. And that's exactly what it looked like. And it was kind of hunched over the room. It had two small grays. But before that, I was laying in this, it was a very small room, and the bed was up high. It was a very strange room in this trailer. It was awful. And there was a little window. And one night I'm sitting there, really, I mean, I'm a powerful manifester. And so I'm sitting there going, I gotta get her, gotta get out of here. And because it's survival, right? When you feel endangered, what are you thinking? Get away from the danger. So all of a sudden, I look out, and it was like we were on like this dirt, mud road. It was not good. The whole trailer park lit up like a football field, and it was the brightest white you've ever seen. Next thing I know, I feel a presence in the room, and I see this large mantis. And I had telepathy that was told, it's okay. We're here to help. It's okay. Everything's fine. And next thing I know, I don't know how I did it. Everything kind of went really white. And then I'm in this white room, and it looks like a hallway. Well, it's really a white, it's like a hallway with doors. And I'm going down, it looks like a hospital. And I'm going through this hallway, and they have medical outfits where the medical, like where it snaps to the side, that kind of medical, not psychiatric, but almost old style. But it's like, I don't know why, but it snaps over. It's like a jacket, and it looked medical. But then we go to this place, and they open a door, and I go into, which appears, it looks like a cave. And we go into this cave, and it's huge room. It's massive. And in this, which now I've run this with Geraldine Orozco, who's a very well-known hybrid mother. And I did this thing with her, deep hypnosis. And after we got even deeper, and she's like, I've seen the room, because she's also been abducted. I said, no way. She goes, yeah. Well, what it was, in a cave's a cave, but there was this circular big window, like glass, but don't ask me how, but you could see the freaking galaxy in the cave.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, because we don't have that technology, right? Like that is not, we don't know this. But I that's what I saw, and I drew these things. And then there were people, they had little vats of things lined up for different sizes for like children. And then they had a screen, they would put like electrodes on your head. Well, there were humans in there. There were Germans in there. And I don't know why. I feel like they were Nazis. Okay. And and they could have regenerated them. Who knows? I don't know, but that's what I felt. But not just because they were speaking German, but I felt that as well. I did see a reptilian in the background, but he didn't really pay attention to anyone. But he was pretty awful looking. But he was just doing his thing. And then I was put into this thing, and then they said that we're going to make you better. And it was like a white goo, and then a green. It changed to green goo. I talked to someone who's a super soldier, and they said that's rehabilitation, and they also they clone you. So I ran this whole thing, and it's they said that I was part of a cosmic spy spy thing, and I kind of find out like it's a thing. I've drawn lots of detail into this, what I've seen, the uniforms, what's going on, and and I think it has a lot to do. They look for certain types of people that have abilities already, and so kind of find out. Like I just thought this was a wild. Like this sounds like a crazy movie, and so I kind of find out I'm starting to meet people like, oh my god, this is like a thing, but I saw there's a lady, a journalist, an older lady who has a book out, and she's taken several images. There's a base right where this, right where I'm 45 minutes away where I was. Not that it mattered, it would be 45 minutes away. This 22 miles underground in those mountains is a military base. And they said it's like the Area 51 of the East Coast. So, what do I do with that? Well, on some level, I agreed to it. Not to be ugly, but I did, and it's enhanced me a lot. There's a lot more to this story, but I would have never thought it's going there, and then to meet other people that kind of add to it, I'm going, wow. So the problem was the people. It wasn't the mantis. The grays are like little robots. They don't have any thinking capacity. They're hive mentality. They just do like, pick that up, go get that. And when they took me in there, there was three of them on each side. They used their fingers, but there was no wheels. I don't know how they got me there. They just kind of floated me in there. I don't know that technology either. So there's so much like technologies that I've seen, like we don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to understand. So this is, but they look for people that have advanced abilities. And so that probably has something to do with it. And they're still, I see crafts. My husband and I were going to Asheville and for a weekend in 2021, and he's normal. Okay. He's more normal. He's a normal person. And he goes, look at that. And I'm like, and I thought he was going to point out, a sightseeing thing. And he goes, look at that. And it was probably about 6:45, so it's still dusk, it's starting to turn dark. It took us forever to get out of town. So I'm looking to the side and there's a fleet of UFOs. Like there's no doubt that's what it is. There's absolutely, and I go, wow. Like, what do you do when you see one like that? You go, it's not like oh, that could be up there, but like that close. What do you say to that? You're going, wow, look at that. Like I didn't feel any threat at all. I'm just like, what do you do with that? You just look at it. Then he goes, but look at that. And over by my side was a big one. And it was like this red lava looking signature thing. And come to find out later on, I've asked a couple of UFO experts at a MUFON, and they said, oh, that's their signature. So maybe that's heat signature that comes off, but it was by me. They followed us 7 or 8 minutes. Now you may say, why didn't you pick up a phone and do that? I was overjoyed. I felt like I knew them. I don't know why. I was in this ecstasy. Again, we don't always, and I asked Jesus about this too. He said, oh yeah, there's millions of other planets because some look just like you, the people. And why we have to feel like everything's adversarial. Yeah, there are some, that aren't so great, but they do that to other planets too. Like, the reptilians or whatnot, that they have a certain mode of operating. But yeah, I felt an intense love. I came back after the trip and started drawing light codes and speaking different light code language. And I looked at the book. I had Mary Rodwell on my Seeking Heaven channel, and she's from Australia. And she said, well, when you see these things, you get a download. I said, what does that mean? She goes, I don't know. It's different for different people. So I've seen that. I've seen a mothership in my backyard 2 months later. I know it's crazy. I was getting a pizza and it was dark. It was like 8 p.m. And I was going through the drive. I was pulling up the driveway, which would kind of have a long driveway. And I thought it was a helicopter because it was very bright. So I just assumed it's a helicopter because I usually don't have bright things in the back of my yard. That was kind of a surprise. And I looked, and it wasn't just like a craft long, it was up tall, and it had prism at the top of lights, and below it had exact lights, but it was massive. But there's no way that could have fit in my backyard. So it was like they had the technology to shrink that and make it small. They obviously projected it to me in some way, but I stopped the car and checked it out. And I went, I literally stopped the car and I went, what am I looking at? You know what I mean? I stopped and what is this? I stopped, people go, well, I'd be really afraid of it. You don't know. Look, you're shocked. You're looking at it. You're like, would you expect, you're like, what am I looking? You're like, your brain can't register it. You're like, what am I looking at? And then I realized, oh my gosh. And so then I called my husband from the car phone. I said, get outside. There's a big ass a mothership in the backyard. He comes running out there. And then it goes and it sucks back. I think that was just for me. They know how they know who people are that are open-minded, that are psychic, that are intuitive, that are interested in like civil rights, human rights, that care about humanity. They know already who you are by your DNA. They don't need to implant you. That's lower level stuff like Grays. They know who we all are, and they know, and they connect with people individually to have experiences to raise the consciousness. Because if they did it all at once, the moguls out there would freak out. So I think that's why they're showing to individual people. And I still see that. When I was a speaker in December on the Galactic Origins cruise, I was walking because I was speaking several times. They had us really busy. So came from the cafe, and then you got to walk kind of from the top of the ship across to the meeting rooms. And I heard they're here for you. So I said, hold on a minute. So my husband and I, we walked to the edge, and I said, give me a second. And it looked like a circus out there, but I didn't realize we are in the Black Ocean. Okay. In the Black Ocean, it's dark and black, and you can't see anything. You could see in the distance lights of Cozumel. Well, what I saw looked like 3 Ferris wheels, but it was one big one with the lights going all the way around it. And I filmed it, and the lights are dimensional and they're LEDs. They're doing like this. Now, this is the Black freaking Ocean, but this is in the Gulf of Mexico where all the action's supposed to be. And there were people walking around and they didn't see it. And I'm like, you've got to pay attention. A ufologist told me once, if you want to see a UFO, you have to look up. And I looked out there, and it was above hovering. It was huge, but it's still shocking to me. But I did this time film it. My husband's like, oh, it's nothing. It's just probably a city. I'm like, a city doesn't look like a circus. And so, you know what I mean? They'll, woo, they don't have, no city looks like, at least it's Vegas, looks like that. And so I have 45 minutes of that. And I'm asking them, can I take pictures of you now? And so I can start capturing it for other people.
Whoa,
I know, a lot.
blown away by this, and time is absolutely flying by because we're going to only have a couple minutes left here, and we're going to have to do another show with you, Tamara. I'm blown away because I have no experiences like this, and I think this is why I do this show like this. And we have to kind of wind up, and let's find out some more things about you. Tell us about your Academy of Divine Wisdom, which you describe as a school of spiritual ascension. What's that all about?
Yeah, I actually been told by Jesus for a long time to teach. And so I finally started this school online. So it would include everybody, the Academy of Divine Wisdom.com. And that's where I offer courses to teach people that have natural intuition, but how to teach them, or even mediumship or the spiritual gifts in you can call it a Christ conscious way. And I teach about, there are other nefarious things, but if you're working with God's love and all that, it's fine. So I teach that. I have meditations. Some of them are free, like the one with Jesus. I have a 30-minute meditation for that. And then I will be having workshops. I'll be having one coming up on how to speak light code language and what that is, which some people call it tongues.
Yeah.
But what that is and why the frequency is important, and how to get in this state of this divinity. And then I still do, I do Starseed transmissions. It's also on there, the Academy of Divine Wisdom.com services. And then I have the Southern Belle Medium.com. I do evidential life path readings for people. It really helps with grief and letting them know their loved ones are okay, and they're a place that heaven, it really is real. And they're a place that they're very much so loved. They care about us. They still see what's going on with us. They'll be there for us when it's our time. And then I also do life path with that. And then, of course, I have the Seeking Heaven channel on YouTube, which I worked very hard on, that Jesus told me to do in 2021, which you're going to be on.
I guess, yeah. Wow, just phenomenal stuff. And yeah, let's see. You write a book too, I think?
Love from Heaven. So I've got a little bit left that I've got to finish. There's reasons that I haven't finished it because it's been personal, and I am ready to complete that. And because I've been told I've got several other books that I have to do. And so, and then I'm working on a card deck too called Sirius B, from what I did on that, speaking on the cruise, on the Galactic Origins cruise. So I'm working on a card deck too. So I've got, I'm an oddball, Carl, from Jesus to aliens. Look, it's all about the love.
That's well said. It really, truly is all about the love. And you and I like to hang out with Jesus, and we find
Yep.
out that, and you don't have to be religious to hang out with Jesus,
Nope.
because it's all about source and going back home, and Jesus is the tunnel of that light all the way back to home. And wow. Wow, so I guess we're gonna have to wind up here because I mean, like I said, time just flew through here. We're definitely gonna have to chat more in the future. Tamara, you are amazing. I am so grateful to have you on episode number 200 of World Awakenings. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carl. And I'll come back anytime if you'll have me. Thank you so much.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.